Another question is on Israel. The U.S. relationship is based, and Israel relationship is based on the twin pillars of shared values and mutual interests. Georgia does a lot of trade with Israel. More than 100 Georgia companies do business in Israel, and there's like 50 to 60 Israeli companies that have offices in Georgia. Georgia invests in Israel. The state purchased $20 million in Israel bonds last year, and Georgia has supported Israel, and I think you mentioned that in 2016, the state passed legislation prohibiting any company from doing business with Georgia if they boycott, divest, or sanction Israel. So tell us about how you and your administration would support Israel.
Well, first of all, everything you just articulated is exactly right, and we have worked hand in hand in order to achieve those goals. And as governor, I can assure you that I will be there to continue that relationship. And also ensure that those companies that want to boycott is going to feel the wrath of our state. And I've done that. I've done that not only as Lieutenant Governor, but I also did it when I was the finance chair in the state Senate as well, leading that effort. Relationships are critical, and as I've had the privilege of visiting with many of you, but also your Consulate General, we have talked about how do we continue to create an environment that fosters this relationship with Israel. And I would just say that there are a lot of ways in which that can exist. But as I learned early in my business career, a gentleman told me, he said, "Casey, you can lose a deal getting 2 out of 3 right." And I thought, how do you lose a deal getting 2 out of 3 right? He said, you can be right on price, you can be right on value added, but if you don't have the relationship, you'll lose the deal every time. And so those relationships are critical. And the relationship that we have with Israel is one that I value, and the one as governor that I will be committed to going forward.
Thank you.
I think I've already spoken to that, so I'll just say that I completely support all of that. I know when I was at the APAC event just a few weeks ago, I guess that was, you kind of lose track of time when you're in the governor's race. But I have been and I think this is important for this group to know, I have been a candidate and a Secretary of State, and quite honestly a state senator that has been there for Israel over the years, and not just in election years. I've got a strong record in the Senate of supporting Israel. I've been to many APAC events. I don't normally, I think one year I had to come and leave, but normally I stay for the program where I have learned a tremendous amount about the issues that are out there. And like this year, some of the public opinion polling and the work that still has to be done to convince people. That tide is changing a little bit with some of the schemes and gimmicks that are going on out there from the other side. So you will have a governor that will not let that happen in the state of Georgia. I know we do a lot of business with Israel. That trade goes both ways. You think about the airline industry, parts, pulp and paper, innovation and technology. And also, it's not just about going to the APAC events. I mean, Dan Israel and I went to California, to Silicon Valley, to learn more about innovation. Jeff Kunkus bends my ear at lunch once a quarter to make sure I know what's going on.
He bends our ear every Friday.
I've had lunch with the lunch bunch on Friday and gotten a lot of great advice. So just know that you're going to have a governor that you won't just see every 4 years. You'll have somebody that's accessible, that will work with you on the issues, and our state will continue the strong support that we've had in the past.
Well, as I mentioned, I am a humongous supporter of Donald Trump, and I love the fact that Donald Trump, recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
Yes.
And to solidify that, to put an embassy in Jerusalem, 100%. And I believe, again, tremendously in the two-tier system where the shared beliefs. I'm a Christian, but I know the Old Testament. I've read it, I studied it. I believe the Old Testament. And I believe strongly in the values and the principles that all of the Jewish community have go hand in hand with the Christian values as well. And we need to learn to work together. Because guys, gals, we are in a fight of our lives right now. There are people that want to come into our country and destroy us. We have to unite. We have to be strong. We have to find ways to work together, to solidify those beliefs that we have so that we can defend ourselves against those that want to destroy the American dream and what we have fought so hard to build here in America. And that's where I stand on that.
Well, let me just tell you this from the outset. My third tour was in Afghanistan. I objected internally to the fact that we were establishing the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. If you want to infuse the values and principles that made us the strongest country in the world, then you would naturally recognize that an Islamic Republic, it runs counter to that, because there's no daylight between the religion and the state. And our foundational principles are about the freedom of the individual, certainly freedom of religion. And my point here is that you can't make long-term investments with nations that don't share your values. Well, the beautiful thing is that we do share values with Israel. They are who we are, the Judeo-Christian values that we believe. And when in establishing Israel, in the late 40s, we had that partner in the Middle East that we cannot do anything but make stronger. It's been very sad to have watched the previous administration's jettisoning of those values, and it's wonderful that Donald Trump is willing to stand up and honor the relationship that we have with Israel. And one of the things that I look forward to doing as governor is to continue that relationship, finding partnerships from trade, and increase our partnership of having exports and imports with Israel. And what I'd really like to do is increase our economy so much that some of the outstanding entrepreneurs and innovators that are currently operating in Israel, maybe they'll want to move here and bring their innovation, their capital, and their ideas to Georgia, because we're going to create such a robust marketplace where families can invest and grow here. So, but I would continue that relationship as strongly as we can.
So, when it comes to Israeli bonds, first of all, you need to understand that my mindset when it comes to investments, Georgia, for our future is, what does the portfolio look like, and what is the best return on investment for Georgia? So that has to be the first criteria. Within that, we should be looking at Israeli bonds and things like that against that criteria. So I will continue looking to invest in those, but it would be within the broader context of the portfolio, not any sort of, this is what we do sort of thing. The other thing I would tell you, as far as part of this, I think goes back to understanding. And again, this is something that I happen to have upfront experience with. I was in Iraq in 2015. That was when President Obama was negotiating the nuclear treaty with Iran. Okay, I understood the towns in Iraq that were being erased by Iranian-backed Shia militia groups. So I've seen up front the challenges faced by the nation of Israel, specifically with regards to the nation of Iran, and what happens when we go down roads like that in a naive, trusting sort of way. So, anything that I can do to have Georgia be a friend of Israel, that's going to happen. And I come from a philosophical point of view that says our nation not only has to stand by Israel, it has to understand how deadly the everyday threats are for the nation of Israel. And I've seen that firsthand on the front line, and have been part of the things that exposed how dangerous that area of the world is for Israel with regards to Iran.